Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that catchphrase in when it's a Gothenburg beer because it is channel tradition these days, and you know you can't break tradition. You'll know that if you've been watching for any length of time. But for this review we are going to return to a brewery who are one of my personal favourites, one of the most established craft breweries here in Sweden, and they always do some really interesting stuff. So I'm very curious to see what this latest release has in store for us. So we're going to head out to the east of the city once again. And we're going to go to Landvetter, very close to the main airport in Gothenburg, and we're having a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Bryggeri. So this particular beer is another IPA. This one is called the LUX. It comes in at 6% ABV and it's a New England hazy type IPA, this one. So this beer was released as part of the Lokal Småskalig assortment for December of 2020 through Systembolaget here in Sweden. I think the exact release date was the 1st of the month, if I remember rightly. But yeah, this was one of two beers they released that month, and hopefully it turns out to be a really nice one actually. The last IPA that I reviewed from these guys was the Fruity Juicy, and I thought they got the mouthfeel on that one perfect actually, so I'm really curious to see whether the same can be said for this one, because the Dugas IPAs have always been really nice, but I always felt the mouthfeel just wasn't quite as thick as they might have wanted to make it. So yeah, fingers crossed this one follows on in the carries on in the same vein as the Fruity Juicy actually. But the last beers I reviewed from these guys were the Bang and the Kapow, which were really interesting barley wines actually with Scotch ale yeasts and Pilsner malt, really interesting beers. So quite curious to see what something a little bit more kind of conventional, I guess you could say, turns out like. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then, and as always I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So yeah, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Bryggeri before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list in the near future. You will see one more beer from them this month. There's maybe about 40 or so reviews on the channel from these guys now, and many more to come. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you guys show the channel is massively appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Bryggeri. So Bryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Landvetter, just out to the east of Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden, the Swedish craft beer capital. Lots of really good beer there, as I've told you many a time. But this brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal to the south of the city by Mikael Engström Duge, whom of course it takes its name from. Dugas Bryggeri, there you go. But a few years prior to this, Mikael had actually met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the Swedish alcohol laws, which were and still are quite complex. He visited various other breweries around the country, and he started buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, and this culminated with the opening of the first facility in Mölndal back in 2005. Over the following years he continued to kind of grow this brewery as much as he could, but by 2009 they'd outgrown their original brewery, and so they had to move to Landvetter the following year in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity at full tilt of 1500 hectolitres of beer per year, but the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8000 hectolitres, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. I think they've maybe even tripled it by now actually. They're kind of constantly expanding. But over the years this brewery became very well known for their kind of fruit beers and their sour beers, as well as their imperial stouts and porters and stuff like that. At one stage this brewery was known as Dugas Öl och Porter Bryggeri, to give them their full name, so the Dugas Beer and Porter Brewery essentially, if you want to translate it into English. But more recently they've been investing heavily in their barrel aging program, the Future series, and they've also been producing a lot of IPAs actually as well. So there's the Crush series, and the Fresh series, which are the New England Hazy IPAs. There's the Bite series, which is the West Coast IPAs, and then I think there probably will be a few others come out at some stage as well. It'll be quite interesting to see if they did a black IPA series at some point as well. I don't remember having tried a black IPA from these guys actually. I don't remember that. So we need to check though, because as I say, it's about 40 reviews we've done now from Bryggeri over the years. But yeah, these guys, as I say, a very, very good brewery in my experience, and this is the 40th or so beer that I've reviewed from them. These guys are also one of the co-owners of the Brewers Beer Bars in Gothenburg. The original one is on Tredje Långgatan. I would recommend you check that out. You can check out my Out and About video that I did there when I was in Gothenburg in about September or October of 2019, if I'm remembering rightly. Definitely a place that you want to go and check out, and that beer bar is also co-owned by the guys at All In Brewing, and I think as well by Electric Nurse Brewing, which is run, I should say, by Mikael's daughter Ida and her husband John. So yeah, another very good brewery that you should check out actually. Both All In and Electric Nurse have some very good beers, but probably the cult classic beers, I guess you could say, from Dugges Bryggeri would be the Tropic Thunder, which is a sour beer, and the Egypt Imperial Stout. Those are the two classics that you really need to try from Dugges Bryggeri. But I think you can still get the Tropic Thunder, but I think getting hold of the Egypt is a little bit more difficult. But Dugges Bryggeri, in my experience, are also very good at coffee stouts, and I do hope that they introduce a specific series for those at some stage in the future. I've been saying that in pretty much all of my Dugges reviews recently, so hopefully Mikael sees that and listens to it. I would love to see these guys do a coffee stout series and try it with lots of different beans and things like that. I think that would be very, very interesting. One of the most interesting adjuncts you can add to craft beer, of course, is coffee. It works in IPAs as well. We've seen that quite recently. That would be a really interesting experiment for these guys as well, would be a coffee IPA. We had the one, the Wizards and Gargoyles from Stone Brewing, and then there was of course the Rwandan coffee IPA that I had from Overtone Brewing back home in Scotland actually. But yeah, that would be another interesting experiment for Dugges. But like I said, these guys are one of the most established craft breweries here in Sweden. They very recently celebrated their 15th anniversary, and they do some really great stuff actually. So definitely one of the Swedish breweries I would highly recommend you check out if you're watching from outside of the country. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dugges Bryggeri for the moment. I always enjoy reviewing the beers from these guys, so I hope you enjoy my take on them as well. But if you want to learn more, check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers they've done thus far. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is quite similar to what you'll find on a number of Dugges beers. This little text up here, this is the main Dugges symbol. There you can see on the side there, it says this one is Haze for Days and Days. Yeah, there's also another one of the Dugges Bryggeri symbols there as well. But yeah, 6% New England IPA, this one. It's got a little bit of a blurb on the side here, and it says, "This is Lux. When dreaming up this IPA, we looked at our history, looked to our future, and savoured all that we are. It means that all we've learned and all we're aiming for is packed into this IPA. A tasteful and nuanced beer with an aromatic hop character and clear yet balanced bitter bite. Just the way we like it, Dugges." So, yeah. Nice little blurb on this one. Plain gold bottle cap. I always complain about this. Dugges, you need to get black bottle caps with a D or Dugges written on them. Please do that at some point. I would love personalised bottle caps on these beers. But yeah, another nicely presented beer from them. So let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. Curious. Oh, this one doesn't want to open. There we go. Is there a little there's a wee crack on the bottle there. Strange. But yeah, I was a bit worried about that there. I thought I was going to snap it off or something. You're always worried when you're filming these videos that something is just going to explode or just crazy happen when you're pouring these things. But yeah, it seemed to be okay. So there we go. Yeah, but this beer, I think I paid about 40 Swedish kronors for this, so that is about €4, something like that. Yeah, £3.30 or something like that, and I guess about $4.50 American if you guys want the price comparisons. A lot of people always ask about the prices of these beers actually, but yeah, that gives you some idea. But you know, the craft beers in Sweden, to be honest, through Systembolaget, I find them actually very cheap compared to other places. I always get a bit of a shock when I go to Denmark and buy some stuff over there, because it is more than, you know, it's probably about almost twice as much actually to buy stuff over there. But yeah, as you can see and as you would expect from this one, you know, the LUX 6% hazy IPA, it's poured exactly as you'd expect. So I would describe this one as being, that's that's probably, it's quite like a mango juice, to be honest with you. You can see when it poured with about a half finger of a frothy white coloured head. That's fading away to just be a kind of thinner foamy layer just now, but it does have a little bit more thickness right in the middle of the glass. There's a nice big kind of thick foamy ring around the edge as well. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there. But in terms of its haze level, it's not the soupiest and gloopiest of IPAs that you're going to come across in the New England category, but for 6%, I have to say I think the level of haze that you get out of this one is actually pretty impressive for 6%er, to be honest with you. If I stick my fingers behind the glass, you can see it is pretty nice, but compared to the fruit juices, as I always like to do with these New England IPAs, this one is, I would say it's kind of like a bit of a combination of a mango and a little bit of pineapple juice in there. It's a little bit paler than some of the ones you're going to come across, not quite as rich in yellow. It's probably a little bit more like the kind of lighter yellow on the label there actually. But yeah, it certainly looks the part for a New England hazy style IPA. Nothing particularly surprising about this one in terms of its appearance. So let's have a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with this one then. Very curious about this beer. Now, I have to say, this does smell quite interesting actually. So yeah, where to start with this one? I mean, it comes across as, the first impression that I have of this IPA is that it's really fruity and juicy. It comes across as quite wet, but at the same time it comes across as if it's got a very, very soft kind of malt base to it. So yeah, it's quite an inviting IPA, this one. I think this is going to be a really sessionable example of this this style, to be honest with you. So straight away with this beer, you smell a lovely kind of soft white bready character. In the top of the nose, if you like, you do get a wee bit of a kind of bitey or wheaty quality out of this one. Not too bitey actually, it does come across as almost a little bit aromatic in its wheaty qualities, in fairness. But there's a lovely smooth, wheaty character to the beer, which I think is really quite nice as well. So yeah, the aroma of this beer, I think, comes together really nicely, to be honest with you. I really, really like how this all goes together. Malty side of the beer, yeah, soft and white bready, nice little bit of oatiness in there. I think the beer does actually lean a little bit more towards the oatiness, in fairness to it, and it comes across really smooth in that regard. Good little bit of kind of floral aromaticity from the hops as well, and that complements the kind of slight wheaty bitiness that this beer has. Does it say if it has things in it? Yeah, it has got wheat and oats in it. So yeah, but the wheat, I think, takes a bit of a back seat to the oats in this one. This really comes across as a soft white bready base with more kind of oats in it. Then you get a bit of the bitey wheat at the back actually. There's maybe a wee hint of that little Werther's Original kind of thing there, but I think this beer really is more kind of oaty and bready, just with a little touch of wheat in the background as well actually. So yeah, I think that kind of sums up the malt base pretty well in this one. But the more you smell of it actually, the more the kind of bitiness of the wheat blends in with the floral aromaticity that you get out of this beer. So let's focus on the hoppy side of this now. So yeah, there's a good little bit of floral aromaticity comes out of this one. It's not like a spicy or a bitey floral aromaticity, it's actually quite smooth in a lot of ways, to be honest with you. There's a lovely lighter grassiness to the beer as well, which I think is really nice. Yeah, lovely softer kind of grassy character to this beer, and the fruits come across as very, very soft in it as well actually, which I think suits it too. But yeah, the floral aromaticity does have a good bit of depth to it, and it's got a lovely brightness at the same time as well. So yeah, little touch of earthiness for me, but quite a bright and still quite deep floral aromaticity, lots of lighter grassiness, and then some very, very juicy smooth fruity characters coming off of it. So let's have a look at those a bit more in depth now. It's a bit hard to play guess the hops with this one, to be honest with you. I always like doing that in these IPA reviews. But yeah, it's very, very soft. I mean, you've got some lovely kind of there's something makes me want to say this might be like Simcoe's always a good candidate for these things. Idaho 7 is something that's coming out of my head as well, just because of how soft these fruity characters are in this one. But I'll say that and I'll be completely wrong, to be honest with you. There's so many hops out there. I used to be really good at kind of calling out the hops in these beers, but now there's so many of them, it's a bit it's a bit difficult. to actually to do it, to be honest. The more you sugar this beer up as well, the more of the wheat you actually get out of as well. I got a nice whiff of that big kind of wheaty character out the beer when I sugared it up there, which was quite interesting. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, the more that you smell of it, you do get a little bit of like a slightly pungent passion fruit out of it. You get some lovely soft kind of mango-y notes in there. There's a good bit of pineapple and apricot and stuff like that to it as well. Has it got a wee bit of peachy sharpness? There's something that makes me want to say there's a wee bit... Nah, not peachy, not peachy. When you maybe sugar the beer up and agitate it a little bit, you might get a bit of a sharper peachy note to it. And that also gives you a bit more of that passion fruity note that I was talking about as well. So yeah, you do get a wee touch of a stronger passion fruit from it, but then other than that, it's apricots, it's papayas, you know, mangoes and stuff like that. It's very soft tropical notes you get out of this. I don't know if there's a wee bit of an orangey character to it. There's something that makes me want to say there's a wee touch of like a tangerine orange in there. But yeah, it's a lovely, lovely aroma that you get out of this one. I'm really not sure exactly what hops could be in this. Idaho 7 comes to mind. It could be, you know, it could be Simcoe. I don't think it's Citra that's in this one, to be honest with you. I think it is something a little bit different than that, to be honest with you. But regardless of what it is, the fruity aromas are very, very nice. Lovely, soft, juicy, tropical fruits for the most part, with just a little bit of a more pungent tropical fruit in behind that. But I think this is going to be quite an interesting one, I have to say. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer, as I always say, but we're going to get stuck into this one now. So this one is the LUX, a 6% New England hazy IPA from Bryggeri in Landvetter, out to the east of Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanja, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, that is quite different to the other IPAs that I've had from Dugas before. First impression is, this one's a very, very smooth and really easy drinking IPA. That's my first thought on this one actually. This is definitely not one of the more kind of bitey and more pungent ones you're going to get from them. This is a little bit more almost like a kind of session IPA in some ways, but obviously it's 6% ABV. It is a little bit kind of stronger than that. I would say, what I was saying earlier about it kind of carrying on the mouthfeel of the fruity juicy, I think it does that to a degree, but it really has that kind of smooth thing that you get from the session IPAs, come to think of it. Yeah, this one is definitely one of the kind of smoother IPAs that we've had from LUX over the years. This is a really interesting beer, I have to say. So, you know, well done to Dugas for doing something a little bit different. Is this the kind of craziest and sort of quirkiest one you're going to find from them? Not particularly. This is more, it strikes me as one that is more intended to be kind of sessioned and drink. This is like a sort of, it's almost like a festival IPA in some ways, this one, I would say. Yeah. It's nice, it definitely grows on me the more that I drink of it. Isn't my favourite IPA that I've had from Dugas? I've had some really good ones over the years. I wouldn't say this one is my favourite, but this one, it's hard to say because I have had so many, to be honest with you. That's one of the things when it comes to like Stigbergets and OO and Dugas. I've had so many beers from these guys at this point. It's difficult to kind of, unless you get one that really, really strikes you, it is quite difficult to say, oh, you know, this one is one of their best ones. You know, it's difficult to compare unless the beer really strikes you, I guess I should say. And this is one that it strikes me as being kind of solid enough, but it does strike me as being one of the ones that is designed a little bit more for drinkability rather than being for really kind of punchy and out there and things like that. And you will, you know, the fruity juicy one for me was one that really quite struck me actually. That was one that really did. But this one strikes me as more being designed for its drinkability. Yeah. So it's an interesting one, this. I do like this, but this is definitely a kind of smoother and almost a little bit more of an oaty leaning IPA, I think. The other one was a little bit more almost balanced between a lot of different things. The other one was, the fruity juicy was a bit more complex than this. But I like this. This is a really easy drinking New England IPA. So, you know, thumbs up to Dugas Bryggeri for this one. It's another solid beer, and you can't knock them for that. And I think it definitely grows on me a little bit more the more that I drink of it as well. Yeah, I'm wondering a little bit, maybe this, it almost tastes a wee bit as if it's got a bit of Nelson Sauvin in it or something like that. It's got a good nice little bit of gooseberry and stuff in it too. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour profile of this one a little bit and see how we go. So straight away with this beer you get that lovely smooth white bready base that you often get from this beer style. Straight away across the middle of the palate. As you move towards the back third of your tongue, it does get a little touch more grainy, and you can feel the thickness just you can feel the breadiness of the beer just thicken up a little bit, and it's almost a wee touch more grainy on that back third of your palate there, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's a bit kind of fluffy. The bready notes you get out of this one in the middle third of your palate, they're actually very, very smooth, but then on the back third of your palate, they're actually a little bit more kind of fluffy and things. So I really like that about this beer, I have to say. Yeah, so in the middle third of your palate, you do get a little bit of a more kind of smooth oaty quality in this one, and that just sits there in the middle third of your palate, just kind of sits like a circle on top of that. This beer actually does remind me in some ways of the Amazing Haze and the Narangi and stuff like that. It really reminds me of these kind of more old school New England IPAs, and it really is a very, very smooth malt base, this one. And it does have that sort of 2015, 2016 kind of vibe about it actually, and that stands it in quite good stead. I think it is nice to have a bit of a change of pace with these New England IPAs, I have to say. So yeah, I like how this one goes together for sure. So yeah, I like the kind of combination with the malt base in this one. But yeah, you've got a lovely kind of smooth. The dog's going crazy because somebody's coming back. But yeah, you get a little bit, you do get a wee touch of that kind of Werther's Original sort of butter candy type thing in this one, but not a lot. It really is a very smooth, kind of quite bready leaning malt base, this one. So yeah. On the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, there is a little touch of a kind of earthiness to this one, but yeah, as you move further forward, it does get a little touch herbal, and then as you reach the front kind of corners of the palate, there's a little bit more of a kind of floral note to the beer as well, but then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a bit lighter and grassy. The green side of this beer almost comes across as being a little bit, like, it does almost come across as being a little bit German and noble in some ways. And when I was saying about those kind of soft, fruity characters out of the beer, like the Nelson Sauvin type things, could there be Hallertau Blanc in this? There is something just a little bit German about it actually. So yeah, there is just something a wee bit German about this beer. So I do wonder, could it be Hallertau Blanc? That really does come into my head at the moment. Maybe a little bit of that Hallertau Blanc. So yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, the dog barking distracts me often, but yeah, on the fruity side of things then, as I always say, on that front third of your palate you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer, and for me, this one strikes me as really quite nice, to be honest. It's very, very smooth. I think, could it be something like, you know, Simcoe and a bit of Hallertau Blanc, something like that in here? So yeah, on that front third of your palate then, if you go towards the back, that front third of your palate there, you get a wee touch of a kind of more pungent passion fruit, but as you move further forward, a really nice kind of smooth mango comes out of it. And then maybe you get a wee touch of yeah, I think it's a soft mango, to be honest with you. The fruits in this one are quite straight up, but then as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your tongue, it really becomes more kind of gooseberry, like white wine, white green grapey sort of thing. So something that tells me it could be a bit of Nelson Sauvin that's in this, or like Hallertau Blanc. And I'm tempted to say Hallertau Blanc because it strikes me as being a little bit more gooseberry-like than the Nelson Sauvin. Nelson Sauvin is just a little bit almost lighter, whereas the Hallertau Blanc is just a little bit more oily from what I remember. So yeah, it's either Nelson Sauvin or Hallertau Blanc in this one. I've got a feeling, I've just got a strong feeling about that. I'll say that though and I'll be completely wrong, but it's got a lovely soft kind of mango-y, kind of slightly passion fruity note to it, so maybe a bit of Simcoe in behind this one. It's quite straight up, so that makes me want to say that it's Simcoe. Then you've got a little bit of that kind of gooseberry-ish white, green, grapey sort of thing on the front part of your palate there. The fruity notes in this beer are actually very straight up, and that's one of the things I would say about this beer, is that it is quite a straight shooter in my opinion. This is definitely one of the more, it's one of the less complex IPAs I've had from Dougas over the years, but I think it works. I think it works really quite nicely, to be honest with you. So it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. Definitely, this is quite almost like a kind of festival type IPA in a lot of ways, but it is very, very well done. So yeah, good job from Dougas once again. I'm curious to see the other one that the other IPA, because the other one that I got this month is a double IPA, so you'll see that reviewed in a few videos time actually. But yeah, flavour profile wise, this one I think is really quite solid. Quite a bready leaning IPA, a little bit like the Amazing Haze and the Narangi and stuff like that. That nice kind of smooth bready IPA, and then some soft, nice fruity characters as well. On to the mouthfeel then. I think that's where we need to go now. But yeah, mouthfeel wise, I'd say this is, they have got the mouthfeel of this one just right, I think, and I did feel that the mouthfeels in some of the other ones, while the beers tasted really nice, they just needed a little bit of a thicker mouthfeel. They've got the mouthfeel in this one, and with the juicy fruity, they've got that pretty much bang on in my mind. So yeah, this is a lovely, I would say that it's top end and mid-bodied. The carbonation's very smooth. It does have a really nice smooth kind of bready leaning base to it, this beer. Not a lot of IBUs in this one. I think it's your standard 25-30, which is what you'd expect from the New England style. The malt base, as I said earlier, is very, very smooth and quite soft and fluffy and bready. Not really a degree of sweetness to it in my mind, but then you've got some lovely juicy fruitiness to this beer as well. But the fruitiness does have a little bit of an oily character. That's what made me think that there was Hallertau Blanc in this one, to be honest. So yeah, interesting beer, this one, I have to say. And I'm glad that I got to review this for you here on the channel. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this is the this one was the LUX 6% New England IPA from Dougas Bryggeri in Landvetter on the just close to Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. Yeah, I apologise for the dogs barking in this video. They're actually very quiet normally. It's just when somebody comes back they go a bit mental, but it happens sometimes when you're filming. So hope that didn't detract from the video too much. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Nice to review another Dougas IPA, and like I said, over this month you will see another beer from these guys appear, and maybe in about a week or so, something like that. But yeah, the LUX IPA, 6% ABV from Dougas Bryggeri in Landvetter, close to Gothenburg in Sweden. But yeah, thanks again for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dougas Bryggeri as well, and we will return to these guys at some point in the very, very near future. But yeah, Slanja, Skull, cheers. Check out this one, check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Cheers.